Freundinnen und Freunde, liebe Kolleginnen und Kollegen, das heutige Thema ist tatsächlich heiß wie Kohle, so kann man das sagen, hat es doch mit der Zukunft ganzer Regionen zu tun. Jetzt muss ich doch einmal warten. Aber ich glaube, jetzt kann ich anfangen. Und tut das auch. Wunderbar. Also ich denke, dass das Thema Kohle sicherlich eines ist, das in vielen Regionen Europas eine wichtige Rolle spielt. Auch in der Region, aus der ich komme, nämlich aus dem Osten Deutschlands, wo es einen großen Strukturbruch schon gegeben hat und viele Jobs verloren gingen. Und zugleich ist klar, dass die Kohlewirtschaft natürlich in ihrer Endphase sich befindet und das belegen auch nüchterne Zahlen. Und dass diese Zeit auch zu Ende kommen muss, ist nun wieder ein Muss, bedingt durch den Klimawandel, den zu stoppen eine Überlebensfrage ist. Schauen wir auf die Klimakonferenz in Marrakesch, dann zeigt sie deutlich, woran wir eigentlich sind. 48 Staaten aus Asien, Afrika, Karibik und Südsee haben sich zum Ausstieg aus Kohle, Öl und Gas verpflichtet. Und zu den 48 Staaten gehören keine Industriestaaten, nicht eine einzige Industrienation, obwohl gerade diese für die Verschmutzung auf der Erde insbesondere zuständig sind. Und ich glaube auch, dass die Europäer allmählich ihre Vorbildrolle verlieren. Und schaut man sich das deutsche Klimaschutzprogramm, den deutschen Klimaschutzplan an, dann ist da kein großer Wurf. Und das, was in den Mitgliedstaaten darüber hinaus zu sehen ist, sieht zum Teil noch viel schlechter aus. Was wir mit der heutigen Konferenz nicht wollen, will ich gleich voranstellen. Wir haben nicht vor, aus welchem Kalkül auch immer, um Ausstiegsdaten, Kohleausstiegsdaten zu debattieren. Weil egal von welchem Standpunkt diese Frage debattiert wird, zu unterschiedlichen Positionen wird man kommen, das ist klar. Und das ist auch Aufgabe in den Mitgliedstaaten, die mutig oder feige sich dieser Frage stellen. Wir stellen diese Frage nicht, weil sie längst beantwortet ist. Der Kohleausstieg ist unvermeidlich. Die Frage, die uns umtreibt, ist eine völlig andere. Nämlich, wie soll dieser Kohleausstieg aussehen? Wir setzen uns als Linke in Deutschland dafür ein, dass dies ein gerechter Übergang werden möge. Just Transition, deshalb auch die Konferenz, der Titel der Konferenz. Allein klimafreundlich, ich glaube, das ist allen klar, reicht eben nicht. Ein solcher Ausstieg muss sozial gerecht sein. Er muss verbunden sein mit einem echten Perspektivwechsel und einer Perspektiventwicklung und Jobs, die es geben muss und die nachhaltig sein müssen. Wir als Linke verlangen dazu nicht nur das Engagement von Unternehmen, sondern auch von Staaten und Gesellschaft. Der verheerende Bruch in vielen Regionen Europas darf nicht das Modell sein für den kommenden Kohleausstieg. Der Strukturwandel muss gefördert werden von den Mitgliedstaaten und der EU. Und zur Zukunft der Regionen gehört eben auch, dass mit der Umsiedlung von tausenden Menschen aus Kohleregionen aufgehört werden muss. Neue Tagebaue aufzuschließen heißt hierfür keine zukunftsfähige Idee.
Coal-producing regions, that is not a vision that is viable for the future. So during today's conference, we're going to be talking about the prospects for a sustainable, socially just transition away from coal. And at the end of December, there's going to be a summit conference on the question representing men in developing countries. We think that that's a good opportunity for many environmentalists, trade unionists, and governments to get together to discuss the conditions for a move away from coal. I'm very happy to see that so many people have come representing many different regions throughout Europe. I'm also happy to see that there's a great deal of interest, which many left-wing organizations such as the Rosa Luxemburg Foundation, Transform, and the Left Group in the European Parliament have shown in this conference. I'm also looking forward to all of the contributions from Mary Walsh, Maitianas, from Trade Union, Energy Democracy. I'm very happy to see that we're going to have representatives of all of those different countries, Spain, France, Germany, the UK, and I'm really, really happy to see that we've got colleagues from Poland here as well. A major request before we get down to work. We've tried to get as many different actors as possible here representing different views, different points of view, so we really don't have lots of time to speak. So I'm really going to have to insist that no one speaks for more than 7 minutes. After 5 minutes, I'm going to raise a card like this, warning you that you're almost out of time. We have to do that in order to make sure that all of the statements have equal hearing time. Having said that, I think that we've got very good chances of a positive result to the conference. So having said that, welcome all once again, and thank you.
Ja, dann schließe ich mich.
Okay, then I will add to that by saying I too am looking forward to a very fruitful conference. Welcome on behalf of the Rosa Luxemburg Foundation Brussels office. There's just one current political issue that I wanted to raise first of all. I'm thinking about the vote yesterday, the blue eye, and I think for Austria we can say that we've moved forward with that blue eye. I mean, I can't really assess the result, but I do get the general impression that things are becoming more and more difficult at European level. When we talk about a just transition, obviously it's a policy issue which is going to be implemented at regional level, and that's why I'm very happy that we have so many local politicians and local representatives here, because we need to think about the transnational aspects of energy policy. So I'm here with more questions than answers in this conference, but I'm very much looking forward to working towards solutions together. About a year and a half ago, Cornelia Ernst and others and myself were together in the Rosa Luxemburg Foundation offices. It's one of the rare sunny days in Brussels. We even sat outside in the garden and we were brainstorming about what the European Commission had said about energy policy being one of the main topic areas of the European Commission, and we were thinking how we could react to that, because we had a bit of a lack of trust, really, a lack of confidence in how that could proceed. And we decided that we really wanted to work in two fields. First of all, we wanted to work for progressive policy forces with alternatives in terms of content, alternatives to what is going to be proposed by the European Commission. And at the same time, we wanted to work on a network where we would bring together the different interest groups with the different conflicts, bring them together in the same room like today, and sit around a table and look more at the things that unite us, the policy approaches that unite us, rather than what separates us. So I think we'll be making a step forward towards that, because just transition is also about policy questions and issues, how we can organize decent work, decent jobs, how we can have a democratic factor in this transition, in these changes from intensive production and the energy economy, how we can make it sustainable, how we can talk, how we can bring in gender equality. These are all the things that we're going to be discussing around the table today. As director of the Rosa Luxemburg Foundation office in Brussels, I'd like to quote Marx, because there are so many differences between us. but you know that he said every step of true movement is better than having 1,000 different programs. So I'm very much looking forward to today's conference. Thank you.
Dear friends and comrades, I will speak English with a heavy French accent. I hope that's okay for everyone. But French is not an official language today, which is good. Also, for once, it will make us a bit more humble, which is also good. On behalf of Transform Europe, political foundation of the Party of the European Left, we are very proud and honored to be one of the co-organizers of this very important event. It is a huge part of our work, this work on just transition. We have a key program of ours called Productive Transformation, dealing mostly with a progressive industrial strategy for Europe, and in our view, it is inseparable from the work on just transition. It is the cornerstone of our collective work. Yes, we know that we belong to the political family of the European left, and we are also aware that among ourselves there sometimes are divisions regarding the energy transition. So it is part of our work to discuss with our natural partners from our political family and to try to reason with them and to listen to what they have to say as well. But the second part of our job, and that's what we're trying to undertake today, is to reach out to different partners, to reach out to ecological forces, to reach out to trade unions, and to try and provide them with spaces for discussions where we could all exchange on our views and elaborate common strategies to move forward. Because if the energy transition is inevitable, everybody can agree on that. The direction, the shape, the pace, and the philosophy it would take is not. And there lies the political battle to be led. What we want is an energy transition that would be socially fair towards workers, especially those of highly polluting sectors. They don't have to be left behind. And we also have to focus our work on energy poverty, because both energy issues and big projects affect communities on the ground. And we have to speak with them, also we have to include them in our common work. So that's what we're trying to do today, to bring all of these issues at once. And we hope that this will only be a first step of our common work. And I will get back to you during the final session with concrete proposals on how we can further proceed. I can only tell that Jean-Claude here on our behalf drafted first common text which could serve as a basis for further working together. So thank you very much for being here with us today, and I wish you all a very nice conference.
So, good morning everybody. I'm Claire Romé from Energy Cities, and I think we can start already from the first roundtable. I will just moderate this roundtable. So now Cornelia gave me a little note, so I am the timekeeper, and we can start. So the idea is that we have 5 great speakers. They have experience, they have some specific regions to deal with, some specific municipalities to deal with, and they know what is the reality on the ground. So we want first to hear their views on how they believe how coal transition can be done, and what are the main obstacles today, and what are the actions that are already going on. And based on that, we will do then after a great debate, hopefully, where we can all share all our questions, as I understood that we don't have all answers, but we have more questions. But I think hopefully we will have, with those groundbreaking examples, some meat for our discussion. So our first speaker is Leszek. I'm very sorry because my Polish is not very good. Leszek Zieklarski, and you're Secretary General of the Union of Rural Municipalities in Poland. And I think you can just start by telling us what is the situation.
Okay, thanks a lot.
So now the interpreters are going in the booths so that we can have direct
They have to
translation.
prepare themselves
Yeah.
to be ready to translate, just because I will speak in my mother tongue language, which is Polish. It will be much easier to be in time and also in the subject. Szanowni Państwo, przede wszystkim bardzo dziękuję i jednocześnie gratuluję.
Wait.
I have to wait a minute.
I think you can. They are. I think you can start.
As we are ready, I can start. Right. Szanowni Państwo,
Ladies and gentlemen, first and foremost, I should like to congratulate you on organizing such a good conference. Moreover, I should like to thank you for inviting me, because this is going to be a great opportunity for all of us to share different views. I hope that we'll hear many rational views and experiences without any political slant, because we will be talking about economical and technical topics and also social topics, because this is the aspect of decarbonization that we want to focus on today. I will use some main topics in order just to highlight the main issues that we would like to discuss, and if need be, I will answer any further questions that you would like to pose. Ladies and gentlemen, when talking about decarbonization and when talking about transforming into low-carbon economy, there are many aspects that have to be taken into account in order to achieve very positive aspects. Within these aspects are proper identification and awareness of the problem, awareness level concerning environment, now our knowledge about natural resources, economy and energy use, and diversifying energy sources, support mechanism that will lead to lowering emissions. First of all, we have to focus on innovation, on technology. We also have to count on state subsidies and state patronage. Moreover, we should focus on the renewables and on state policy, but also EU policy on renewables. We should focus on thermo-modernization. We should focus on getting rid of smog in our cities. Moreover, we should focus on mitigating climate changes in our regions. Cornelia, in her opening remarks, focused on coal, and coal today is the main source of energy. Let us consider, however, whether coal should be the only and dominating element in our speech and in our discussion. The fact that we have to use our natural resources, hard coal and lignite, should be the source of energy. However, they should not play such a great role. At least it should be a lesser role than today. We should close coal mines that are not cost-effective. We should only focus on feasible pits. The cost of extraction should be as low as to make it possible for us to lower energy costs. Today, energy costs in Poland are one of the highest among our neighbors. Energy costs influence production costs, and in turn we start losing our competitive edge in terms of foreign investments. that simply move to places where energy costs, where production costs are as low as possible. And energy costs in the total mix in individual enterprises are one of the pivotal elements of the whole package. Energy diversification is one of the most important elements in energy security and safety. It seems to be a platitude, but many people tend to forget about this. Bad attitude of governments towards new energy sources is a bit responsible because it fails to consider the changes that await us. If the money that are now subsidizing coal pits were to be earmarked for renewables, we would be at a better place now. We would be now focusing on decarbonization. Decarbonization would be going at a faster pace. If you fail to see it, you first lie to the miners and to their families, you lie to the general public, and basically you distort economies. All these steps are taken in order to gain political ground. Now, I mentioned social awareness in the process, and this is of utmost importance. Let me say that the social awareness among Poles has risen significantly. It is the result of many processes of a better mobility of Poles, whereby we can observe what happens in other countries, in other societies. One has to mention that there is a growing number of Poles who study abroad, and this makes them more aware and makes them more knowledgeable about energy resources. However, we are still being lied by some politicians that try to convince us that by limiting the subsidies in renewables, they protect us, the Poles, from gigantic price hikes. However, when bringing together different data and figures, one can reach other conclusions. But in order to bring all this data together, you need to hold public debates, bringing together experts. And this is what we are trying to do at regional and local level. This is what we are trying to do at various forums and in different formats. So, ladies and gentlemen, what are the measures that have to be taken in order to raise awareness on renewables? First of all, we have to focus on citizen energy sources. We have to look at creating and setting up energy clusters, despite the fact that we have some problems with energy storage. We should focus on local programs that support our combat for clean air. We should get rid of obsolete coal boilers. This is one of the biggest problems that now we have to tackle in Polish municipalities and regions. We have to take into consideration various aspects of this policy. Now, what else? We have to participate actively in many fairs. For example, Pole ecosystem is one of the fairs where we organize a showroom for clean energy. We hold debates with politicians and with scientists. We also cooperate with various industrial associations, like, for example, an association of municipalities that are eco-friendly. My colleague will mention it. We also support the Polish Association of Wind Farms and mining communities. Municipalities surrounding mines, like for example Katowice or other neighboring municipalities, also in other countries, try to get proper money that will make it possible to install measuring units and sensors that will make it possible to look closely at what is happening in our regions in terms of emission levels. Unfortunately, we have lost the microphone.
Mam nadzieję, że mówię tak głośno, że i tak było to słyszalne, ale...
Let me repeat this once again. Let me go back to the fact that now we are creating low emissions plans. On numerous occasions, these plans, subsidized by the EU, modernize and upgrade our buildings. Limited traffic zones are introduced in our cities. For example, they are called Tempo 30 zones. We also subsidize cogeneration units. We also want to improve diesel power units. We also install photovoltaic cells and power cells that heat water. These are merely some examples of what we do in order to make it possible for regional authorities to cooperate in terms of decarbonizing and limiting greenhouse gas emissions. We want to substitute fossil fuels with alternatives.
Thank you very much. And now a concrete example from the mayor of Margoni in Poland, Janusz Pieszowski. If you can tell us the story.
Nazywam się Jan.
My name is Janusz Piechocki. I am the mayor of the Margonin community, and based on the experiences of my community, I can tell you what's our approach towards ecological energy. Gmina Margonin is a commune located in the northern part of the voivodeship of Wielkopolska. We have about 6,500 inhabitants, and 36% of the commune is covered with forest. Everybody has a water supply network. In 85% buildings are equipped with sewage system, and 65% of the buildings have gas network. On this slide you can see the energy consumption structure in European Union and in Poland. And you can see that in the European Union the biggest energy source is gas, but unfortunately what Ms. Cornelia Ernst said is that we still are mostly based on coal. In here you can see the most polluted cities in Europe, and also unfortunately I have to say that at this slide 15 most polluted cities, 13 of these cities are located in Poland out of 30, and the most polluted countries are Bulgaria, Italy, and then Poland. In here you can also see the amount of people dying because of diseases related to pollution per 100,000 inhabitants. This is the share of the renewable energy, and before that wasn't so bad. Our share in that was 7%, but now we see Europe running away from us, and we won't be able to achieve the 20% of renewable energy in Poland. Close to the place where I live, we have the biggest wind farm in Poland that produces clean, green energy. The wind farm is the biggest taxpayer of our commune, And in here you can see the structure of our budget. This structure in 2010 was the following. We had the income on the level of 5.7 million euros and the expenses were almost the same. And now we have lower expenses than income, so we have no budget hole, budget deficit. Since we have a lot of European Union subsidies, thanks to such entities such as the wind farm, we can quite easily obtain subsidies from the European Union. And you can see how much money that we manage to attract in our community from the European Union. Thanks to such an approach towards environmental protection and thanks to the wind farm, we have managed to achieve a lot of good in our community. We have modernized about 30 kilometers of roads. We have built the new transmission station. We also have about 17% of annual property taxes, and we have also increased the investments, various investments in the community. Each and every investment propels further investments. Thanks to the wind farm and the energy transmission node, we have built the power line of medium voltage that now supplies power to the new facility employing 100 people. This facility is visible up there on the left, and this red zone here is a zone created in the special economic zone, and it's prepared for further industrial buildings and facilities that are supposed to be located in our commune. These are some examples of investments in our commune. These are playgrounds for 34 million euros, bike roads for almost €500,000, new local roads, tarmac roads for about 2 million euros, new pavements or new water slides with water playgrounds. There is a lot of myths surrounding the wind farms. Apparently they kill tourism, but we have indicated that it's the opposite. Our biggest wind farm is not just about building pavements and roads, it's also about cultural life. Each and every year we are financing an ongoing cultural event that is called Wiatrakalia. The investment in our community is not just wind farms, we also have schools that use straw for burning to create heating, and that is straw that is bought from our farmers and not imported from Silesia. We have also changed the traffic lights and lamps to LED lights. What are the plans for the future? Next year we'll try to launch a program, or inhabitants will be able to participate in 85%. It's going to be financed by the European Union. It is about solar energy, photovoltaics and heat energy. What are the investments? They have brought a lot of good for the commune. We have increased our growth potential. We have created new working places, and there are many SMEs that were created. And we also attract further investors. We create a brand that is supporting investments, and we also develop a very positive image of our commune. Why are we an ecological community? Because until 2020, the share of the renewable energy is going to be much bigger, and we already have achieved some of these goals a couple of years ago. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much. First, you managed to keep completely in time, exactly 7 minutes already. Congratulations. And then I think your example is very inspiring. And And actually, we will ask our next speaker to see whether he got inspiration from this example that really brings a lot at local level, a lot of economic development. So, Thorsten Pöcht, you're the mayor of Weißwasser in Germany, in Lusitania. I think you can tell us a little bit more what is the situation of your town and what are the prospects for development.
Vielen Dank, sehr geehrte Damen und Herren, Konferenzteilnehmer und Konferenzteilnehmer.
Everyone participating in today's conference, I'm very happy to be able to speak to you today. As has been announced, my name is Thorsten Pöcht. I'm here as one of the keynote speakers for this the Lausitz Circle of Talks, which is basically a model of democratic action. It's a form of innovation, and it's quite unique, I think, in what it's doing. It crosses borders of Länder in Germany, different regions in Germany, including a number of different types of government organization, from local to regional. The representatives of local government recognized us recently as a very important actor in structural transformation. This initiative now has 23 members and more than 1 million followers. It's part of a process trying to bring local authorities closer in contact with one another on the attempt to move away from the use of coal. We are politically independent. We are basically trying to achieve a structural transformation in our region. We want to act in a proactive way in order to bring about structural change. Now, we're looking at what the economic and social consequences of a move away from coal to be. It's not easy to answer that question today. The consequences certainly are going to be different. They're going to be comparable to the social changes that took place in Germany after 1990 and after 1999. Huge transformations have taken place already. Many people who used to be employed in the coal industry have seen, first of all, the collapse of the glass industry in my region. There was one company which is continuing to produce glass in our region. At the same time, we've seen a huge loss of jobs in mining in our city, the city of Weißwasser, in our entire region. We have a very high rate of unemployment, the highest one in the region. Lots of people have emigrated from the region as well. Mostly it's men who have poor qualifications who stay in the region, but of course that's not a viable model for continued life. It means that our quality of life has gone down, fewer children going to school, and we don't have a dynamic local workforce. It also means that cultural and educational events do not have the funding that they need. A quote from a major German newspaper calls my city a dying city, a city of pensioners. But I am a mayor and therefore have to provide a good model for future development. We want to see how we can develop in future. If you want to do something, start a business in Weißwasser, you basically have to do it around the beginning of the month, because that's the only time when people have a little bit of money in their pockets. In recent years, some people have started to come back, particularly younger families around the age of 20 and 30 are coming back now. The birth rate is now up again. There's new investment in the region, so it's basically a new city, which has started to be built about 5 kilometers away from the old city center. So now we've seen tourism starting again. It's what we call the culture of the possible, when we do create the conditions for people to come back. All of this means in the region that we need to deal with our neighbors. The previous speaker was from Poland. We're very close to the Polish border, and therefore we work closely with the Polish authorities as well. And some of the members of the local council speak Polish, work together with our Polish colleagues. That's very important as well, so that we can engage in this transformation process together. As far as climate protection is concerned, we are a European model and are just in the beginning of the process. We've created new bicycle paths and renewable energy, etc. So we've talked about these sorts of challenges. As I say, this is the sort of social transformation that can only be likened to what happened in Germany after 1999. It's something that we need political commitment and business involvement in order to achieve. Now, what action can be taken in order to create a just transition for this structural change in our region? We think that local government needs to receive sufficient money also to be able to fund cultural and educational projects. We've heard some good examples of that sort of project from our Polish colleagues as well. We need national tax incentives as well, so that we can make sure that investment comes to our region. An example from my home city involves a trade tax, which has been brought down significantly in recent years, spurring new investment. So we think that local government can be involved in taking the decisions for a just transition. We've drawn up such a policy, which we call the Lausitz Agenda, in order to focus on social priorities in this transition. We think that this is a good process which can be decided together with local authorities and the local population. Our basic goal is to make sure that we can act as a European model region for structural transformation. That should allow us to promote both social and cultural development. We can do that by taking initiatives for creating jobs, for research and development, and for alternatives to goal. We think that we can also act as a model for other parts of Germany and Europe. And so it proves it's possible to achieve an energy change. Infrastructural change is a condition for all of this. For example, developing broadband access. That's very difficult for some local communities because they don't have the infrastructure right now. So that's something that we've been trying to promote. Roads and development as well. Training should not be centralized anymore. Marketing as well for businesses have to be promoted. Also networking of businesses as well as between businesses and local authorities, so that we can act flexibly at the local level, which we've seen in the Brandenburg part of the Lausitz region. All of this can help various organizations and institutes to establish themselves in the region. We have social accompanying processes for people who have worked in the coal industry, so that we can help them to start small businesses and to avoid the sort of dependency which we've seen in the past. I've mentioned tourism as well. We've also got a fund for regional development. Now, I think that the people in my region deserve support and encouragement. I have information for anyone who is interested in finding out more about our project. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It might have been a little bit complicated for the interpreters because you've been very speedy when you're speaking, but I think it was worth having the full picture. Now we'll go down to the south to get another experience from the region of Aragon in Spain, and Comunidad de Teruel. The mayor of Andorra, Sofia Ciercoles, will explain to us a little bit how can we, what is the future prospect of your region.
Buenos días.
Good morning. Well, first of all, thank you very much for inviting me to take part in this very interesting conference organised by Die Linke and the Rosa Luxemburg Foundation, Brussels. Bearing in mind the social and economic and financial crisis that we are experiencing with very high unemployment in my region, I'm hoping that my contribution will assist in finding solutions for these problems in the context of a just transition, and I'll explain how we in Andorra are facing this just transition. We are in the inside of Spain. Our economy was based on agriculture and cattle. As of the 1960s, we started using mining as an activity which contributed to our economic, social and industrial development. So agriculture gave way to coal. At the end of the 70s, we started construction of our technical centre, which stemmed from the oil crisis. We got 4,000 miners working at that time, less than 100 today. We have 790 inhabitants, so that makes us the third region in terms of population. As of at the beginning of the year 2000, we depended very much on mining. The public institutions and social players decided at that time to trigger an economic program to boost the economy and jobs in our territory by diversifying our economy with the support of the autonomous government and the provincial government, together with the social players, mainly Comisiones Obreras and UGT, the two unions. Now that's very important, because with those plans and all the effort that we've been making with the local councils, it's been very important to have that kind of plan on the table and to consider the different leader programs, other programs that have encouraged companies to set up in our region. Towards the end of 2008, the economic crisis hit Spain, although our region was hit 2 years later. And we saw how that affected construction and the different companies that had been setting up in our region, with all the great effort that they'd made and with all the support of these different economic plans. These companies came because the economic services were available. It was a great investment. They contributed 90% of the investment, but we have now an unfinished industrial zone because that last 10% was missing. This was a very critical time, and there was another company at the time that was going to set up a plastic company with 60 jobs. There were 8,000 inhabitants in the village at the time. That would have been very important. But once again, they've had to close down. We're continuing our struggle. This is another example. We, the mayors, don't really have the competences, but we're still making this effort to try to attract different projects. At the moment, we're hoping for an Indian capital-based company to come and set up in our region. But Still, the town council is endeavouring to offer the economic and social services that are necessary to encourage these companies to come and set up. It's very difficult for town councils to fight for economic growth if we don't have the support of the other institutions. So how are we facing the idea of a just transition for energy? Well, energy is one of the most strategic sectors in our community. It represents a large portion of our GDP. The power station in Andorra represents a large portion of the revenue of the region, and this here we're talking about 1.5 million. Now, we have 6.5 million as an annual budget in the town council, so imagine in comparison the power station's revenue more than 2 million euro, which means keeping 140 direct jobs and also defending the public sector. It's very important to keep the activity of the power station going because it's the main fillip to our economy at the moment. It's giving jobs to the local population. Many families depend on it. Many mines are still closing down following years of the different improvements being brought to this power station to keep it going with adaptation of different measures. Andorra has not been capable of applying the environmental measures that are required of us. At the moment, we are actively fighting, that is all the town councils in the region, to see how we can implement the investments in our power station, because without that, without the power station, the whole region will die off, because it will be impossible to continue without the support to diversify our economy. We haven't got that diversification. We don't have reindustrialization plans in our region involving the autonomous government and the central government. We're all unanimous on this, politicians and social players. We want a new alternative to the coal monoculture. This would be water is the key element. Water is life. We obviously need to make investments in our technical centres and look for urgent alternatives. The party that I represent is proposing nationalisation of the sector, the production of energy. But apart from that, we need to do it straight away, because before 2020, if we can make those investments to adapt us to European standards, the power station will survive. Otherwise, it will have to close down after 2020. So we're proposing nationalisation, but we need to look at the roots and think about the market. We need to regulate. Clearly, there's going to be no investment if there's no guarantee that the investment is going to be recouped. For that to happen, the central government needs to regulate the energy sector and define a minimum strategic reserve of national coal to ensure our survival. It's the right time, and there is a debt towards our territories which has been there for years. That's what we're calling for. We want the central and autonomous governments to create sufficient funds for that reindustrialization of our territories to make it reality. We're looking forward to that, and it's what we desire. All the political parties in our territory agree on that, like in Germany and France. We need to work towards the future, open the door to a just transition for our regions. We're fighting actively and very hard for a new coal plan. It's been signed, but it's not been implemented. We're calling for our governments to provide sufficient funds for this energy mission, thinking about progressive closure, not an immediate closure. We can't just close our centre down suddenly. So, in a nutshell, we give priority to continuation of this progressive closure so that we can have just diversification in our economy. We would like there to be compliance with the framework agreement. We need regulation of coal internationally. We need an eco-tax on coal which is just. We need to nationalize the coal mines and implement a safeguard clause for our mines. We're a small territory and we're fighting for a local society which can survive in the long term, because this just transition, we understand, has to happen, and when it happens we have to be able to survive with our resources, and we have to be capable of attracting different companies to our region. We need to continue to train and coordinate, train young people. The young people have our future in their hands. It's very important to train them and coordinate the different institutions and unions. I'm delighted to be able to be here today for this conference. Thank you for your attention during my presentation, although it was very little time to tell you everything I have to say about our mining region. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Siepers. I think you really put indeed the core of the debate, because there is debate to be happening, and we cannot always have big discussions without looking at what does it really mean on territories. So I think you put very clear what is the scene and what you have to deal with, and I hope we will have a great debate. The last speaker of the session, before we get into that debate, because I think that's really, we have a lot to discuss, is Peter Singer, your chair of the group Die Linke in the Regional Council of Cologne in Germany.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm head of the left group in the local council in Cologne. So we're looking at one of the main challenges of this structural change, moving away from coal. I am involved in authorities which approve the building of mining facilities. In our region, there are 3 major coal mining locations, and they basically are still the largest coal mining area in Europe. Some 9,000 people directly involved in the entire region. So you see from the statistics that there are 9,000 people directly involved, probably another 9,000 indirectly employed in the industry. So in order to make the scope easy to understand, let me give you an example. In our region, the left group has tried to carry out a study of people whose jobs are dependent on the coal industry in relation to the overall percentage of employment. We see that some 10,000 jobs are indirectly involved and 6,000 directly involved in producing energy. So we're talking about 5% of all jobs in the region. And at the end of the coal industry in the region, all of those are going to get jobs. And there are other jobs which are involved which are going to be required in order to reduce the contamination of the environment. Of course, it's not just numbers. There are lots and lots of people behind the numbers, real people, huge numbers, and we want to make sure that those people's lives are satisfactory. So we can do that if we have a future-oriented policy which can provide them with a good solution. At the end of the use of fossil fuels, we're going to be releasing less CO2. The question is when. We know it's a dying industry. Recently, the local government in our part of Germany was taken over by the SPD, and they took a so-called guidance policy on energy and on intervention in the environment, including expropriation, where that includes the reduction in the size of one of our local mines. Also, the Indent location has guaranteed continued operation until 2030. It's going to shut down then. And the biggest location in Hamburg is going to continue to operate until at least 2045. Of course, that means that we cannot achieve our climate goals. The government doesn't have any plan to move away from coal. Even the national government has neglected its duties here. And in Germany, in North Rhine-Westphalia, certainly in our area, we see a contradictory policy. It hasn't been possible to get a very clear scenario for moving away from coal. So what we've done on the left was to take action in April of this year. We were the first ones to table a bill in Parliament to move away from coal, including obligatory deadlines for the dismantling of existing coal mining facilities. So we've tried to provide details for that plan. It's pretty clear that the end of the move away from coal will start in the second half of 2017, looking at all types of energy flows. And by the very latest, in 2035, the last coal mine should close down in Germany. That is a plan which we've tabled to the local parliament in May of 2015. That means that we really are a driving force in this discussion. We're driving the SPD and the Greens. We're trying to work together with conservationists and with trade unions and associations representing various interests. But it really is an overall concept for the transition of a region. How can we make sure that that transition is a fair one? We need a structural change which will be socially fair. Obviously, that needs money. Money in order to create new industrial jobs for the ones which are being lost. We don't think that we can just move away from industry entirely. There are different sectors that can be involved, particularly the innovation body Rheinisches Revier. They are helping us to achieve the structural change, but its biggest weakness is that it has the label of industrialization. At the end of the mining area, people thought that we would have that we would be able to use those quarries as lakes to swim in the future, but that's not realistic. We have to make sure that realistic proposals put forward, including renewable energy. We think that our main challenge or our main advantage is the fact that we have lots of good expertise and qualification together with people with the academic centers in Aachen and Jülich, we do think that we can create new prospects for viable energy and industry, particularly storage uses for various types of renewable energy in the area. We also think that the energy company, EWE, has to be involved. They're not in a good position right now. We have to see how they can be made more viable so that the huge costs involved can be met. They also need a clear task as to how to manage the change. There are local elections next year, and then right after that, the national elections. So we're going to be focusing on the issue of moving away from the use of coal and structural change under the major motto, a just transition for all. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think that it shows also that trying to look to work in partnerships is also something that is helpful to try to find what is the way out. So now we are coming to the debate section. We have quite a lot of time, so that's good. First, you can ask questions if you want more details on the different examples that have been proposed, or you can already comment. I think that what we have heard is that there is first a need to work on culture and education. There is a number of speakers that have said that, because there is a lot to be done still on trying to imagine a new future, but it's all what was key in the different presentation also, was to show how much it's important to build your own local story, because we have seen, like with the example of Teruel, but the others are the same, that the territory has been defined by a mine, but before the territory was existing and had another economic story. So it's about reinventing the economic story, but this happened before in the history to reinvent your own local economic storytelling. But that's basically the moment where we are, so that indeed this transition is first accepted, then also fair and shared, because that's the main point. I think we have also seen that there is a great economic development prospect, especially from our Polish colleague, who have really given us an amazing example where basically the wind turbine is a cash machine. But it's true that the thermal power station is also a cash machine for Andorra. And I have also noted that there is a need maybe to have a closer look to what it means in terms of new solidarity mechanism in between rural area, like the example of Poland, and cities where it's maybe more difficult to have this windfall profits with windmills as an example. And I think this links in between rural and urban area is something that maybe is also an example from the Cologne, Köln region, where you will have a closer discussion. So I open the debate, so now I don't know who wants to take the floor, give a comment. It's Monday morning, but still, we are almost, we have started, the week started a few hours ago. Or questions to our speakers? Please, Laura. Yeah.
I will try to start the discussion. I don't know if it is better in German or in English. Speak in how you want. Okay, so I will maybe continue in English. My question will be for the panelists, because you have mentioned several times in your presentation that cities and commune needs some financial support to do all the what is needed around the energy transition. So, and my question will be, because of the budget constraint, most of the cities and most of the communes can afford it to do more debt. So they have to look for other solutions. And the question is, what kind of solution do you see to finance the whole range of investment you have to do because of the climate change target? So maybe to start with finance is not the best thing, but sorry for that.
Thank you. I think it's a fair question anyway. I will take 3 questions and then we can. So first, yeah, you.
Bueno, buenos días a todo el mundo. Voy a hablar en castellano.
Good morning, everyone. I'll speak Spanish. I'm from Podemos. I'm a member of European Parliament. I just wanted to ask a couple of questions between the link between coal mining and the electric power stations that use coal. I'm interested in this link because you have both things in the same village, the power station and the coal mines. I'm wondering whether in the other regions that have been invited today we have that same phenomenon, because we're talking about mining. If we don't include coal-fired power stations, then we're missing a part of the picture when we talk about closures. And there's another point, for example, in Spain, if you close down the mines, at the end of the day, you only close the power stations inland because those on the coast can import coal. And if you try to only stop coal imports, then at the end of the day, you only shut down the coal-fired power stations on the coast. And not those that are inland, which are open to the free market. So what I wanted to know is whether we have this dual problem in the other regions too. And I'm also thinking that we have representatives of local villages here. Where do you get the funding from? And in the case of European funds, which are the best ones that can serve you, and what are the limits in those funds that might come from the European Union? Thank you.
Another question? I suppose, yeah. I'm not sure. Yes? In Polish. In Polish? You can speak in Polish? We are still, I don't know. I think it's easier in English. If you can try English.
Thank you. My name is Hanna Schude. I'm from Ecological Association Ecounia from Poland. My question is to Mr. Thorsten Pech from Weisswasser. I just want to ask for to clear the dependence of Weisswasser Urwald and the connection with the Muskauer Park. So, as far as I know, this Weisswasser Urwald should be devoted for the enlargement of some open pit mine. I think it's Nochten 2. And we use this argument in Poland, but I'm not sure if it is correct. How much this devastation of the Weisswasser Urwald can influence on the Muskauer Park. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So, because we had very concrete questions, I will first ask our panelists whether they have some answers to those concrete questions. So there is a question on very specific on the current prospects in your region and in your local authorities and its impact on natural parks as well. And there is a very clear question also about whether in the different regions that we're speaking, the coal, it's only about closing the coal mines, or it's also about closing a power station based on coal, because that would mean a different kind of policy, especially from coal coming from imports. And we had also a question about all the different projects, and it's mainly for our Polish colleagues maybe, on the use of structural funds and the financing rules that are attached to local authorities. So I don't know if you want to start maybe? Yeah.
Perhaps I could take the first question first. We're talking about energy savings measures and how they're to be financed. Okay, now looking at the actual finances involved in Weißwasser, we have been involved in this process for 3 years. So we've decided to try to become a European energy local authority, and we've taken lots of action there basically on our own initiative with our own funding, and there are work plans there that are to be implemented on that in the coming years, including allocation of more monies. But basically now we need funding in order to implement that policy. We're still waiting for that. As far as coupling power stations and coal mines, I would say that we do have a coal-fired station, and we've also got lots of residual heat, which is produced as a result of that coal mining process, which is used for local heating purposes. And basically our challenge now is what to do, how to replace that local source of heating if the coal mine is, or that coal-fired plant is shut down. A very important challenge indeed. We're trying to work on it right now. As far as financing for future is concerned, it's possible, for example, as we've heard from our Polish colleagues, that money was made available for that sort of thing in future. And as far as the Moscow Park and the Urwald is concerned, there are 3 UN environment regions there, and one of them is the region with the forest that you've mentioned. It is a park. It's basically shared between Poland and Germany. It's been developing quite well in recent years. We've had more than 300,000 visitors to the park this year. We're only 6 kilometers away from the closest Polish city, right on the other side of the border, and there is a so-called Urwald, primeval forest, an unspoiled forest in the region, which is the source of livelihood for many people, and lots of that forest is now being threatened. So we've taken action involving the local population trying to save that forest, but it's not directly linked to the Moscow Park and the UNESCO region.
Vielen Dank. Maybe our Polish colleagues could answer the question on financing or our end also on the coal, or if you prefer to answer after.
Okay. Odpowiadając na pytanie związane z finansami, mamy tutaj 2 strony bardzo tego samego zagadnienia, ale które mogą być w konflikcie dla interesów gmin.
In response to the question of funding, we've got 2 aspects that have to be taken into consideration and are 2 sides of the same coin and can at the same time stay in conflict in terms of financial support in municipalities.
Ze względu na to, co żeśmy prezentowali, że gminy jednocześnie zachowują się prosumencko, czyli są zainteresowane produkcją i korzystaniem z tak zwanej czystej energii.
On the one hand, municipalities are marked by being prosument, so they are interested in producing energy.
I oczywiście jednym z elementów zasilania budżetowego gmin są również dochody uzyskiwane z tych, którzy wytwarzają energię.
So one of the sources of funding for our budget is to gain from the profit generated by energy producers.
I to, o czym między innymi mówiłem, jeżeli jest polityka państwa w sumie w jakimś sensie nieprzyjazna na przykład odnawialnym źródłom energii, to tak jak ostatnio w Polsce objęto opodatkowaniem elektrownie wiatrowe w całości, czyli maszt, teren, urządzenia, a przede wszystkim turbina, podczas gdy dotychczas turbina nie liczyła się do kwoty opodatkowania.
So, for example, if you deal with a central government that is not friendly in terms of renewables, you get measures that mean that you will get tax for wind farms, and currently the wind farms in Poland are taxed as a total entity, the whole infrastructure. So both turbines are taxed, towers are taxed, and the land where a given turbine stands is taxed. Quite recently we didn't have a taxation on turbines, but currently the government decided to tax the whole infrastructure.
Teraz kolega z Margonina, mając tyle turbin wiatrowych, mógłby być potencjalnie bardzo zadowolony z takowego obrotu sprawy, ale równocześnie jest świadomy tego, że właściciele, ci, którzy zainwestowali w energię odnawialną, tutaj w tym przypadku w turbiny wiatrowe, po prostu nie będą mieli tyle pieniędzy na zapłacenie tychże podatków, bo całość wówczas jest nieopłacalna.
So our colleague in Margonin could be happy because of a big amount of money coming from taxes, but he is fully aware of the fact that investors will not have enough money to invest in his region and in his municipality, because simply they will be heavily taxed.
I to jest trochę taka zmiana reguły gry, także podstaw ekonomicznych w trakcie już wytworzenia majątku i zainstalowania mocy poprzez przyłączenie tychże elektrowni wiatrowych do sieci ogólnych.
So this means changing goalposts when the game is on, and it means that the installed capacity is stored somewhere else and the profit goes somewhere else.
I tutaj mogę tylko powiedzieć, że duże koncerny, szczególnie te, których kapitał jest ulokowany główny poza Polską, wyzerowały ostatnio wartość majątku w energetyce wiatrowej, przez to będą w ogóle przeć do tego, aby uniknąć jakiegokolwiek opodatkowania, czyli obcięcia dochodów, zresztą całkiem niezłych, o czym tutaj żeśmy mogli się przekonać, dla gmin w dotychczasowym kształcie.
So basically what we are seeing now is that big companies, especially foreign investors, decide to cut costs, and they shift the whole policy of investing in local and regional economies.
I ta dynamiczna część energetyki obywatelskiej, jaką na przykład właśnie była energia z wiatru, została obecnie wyzerowana w sensie aktywności ekonomicznej i na przestrzeni roku nie przystąpiono do żadnej nowej inwestycji w tym zakresie.
So basically currently we are seeing no civic energy measures, and all the investments have been stopped, and we will see no future investment. At least this is for the timing, the perspective.
Innym przykładem jest tutaj obcięcie wpływów do gmin z opłat eksploatacyjnych przedsiębiorstw wydobywczych i to ograniczenie tego dopływu mniej więcej o 70%, co pokazuje, że po prostu ci, którzy mieli mieć subsydiowane negatywne skutki prowadzenia eksploatacji kopalin też po prostu mają tutaj złe warunki ekonomiczne.
Cutting costs, increasing taxes means that everybody will lose. Now we are seeing a 70% drop in profitability. Also for those who are still run the utilities on fossil fuels. So those that were supposed to be subsidized by the government will see also drop in income and in subsidies. So it's a lose-lose game for everyone.
Są na etapie ostatnie zdanie, the last words. Czyli w zakresie samej już energii staramy się na tyle rozmawiać z rządem, a szczególnie z premierem rządu, po to, żeby nie tylko widzieć jeden aspekt funkcjonalny, na przykład eksploatacji złóż kopalnych, ale widzieć całą kwestię implementacji tego rodzaju decyzji na budżety gmin. Gminy i tak sobie poradzą z tym, że będą musiały szukać zupełnie innych niż dotychczas źródeł dochodu.
Therefore, we are trying to stay in close contact with the government and with the Prime Minister, and we want to make them aware that coal mining is not only one aspect of extraction and the use of coal. Basically, the ministries and the decision makers should take into consideration the whole array and the whole spectrum of issues that is connected with municipal funding. Currently, we'll have to look for new sources of funding, of subsidies and support, and this is the reality on the ground.
Thank you very much. I think that was a quite critical point to bring on the table the taxation and the fiscal policy, because obviously there is no specific transition that can be fair if there is not a fiscal policy attached. Maybe Peter, you want to say a few things also on that, and then I will have those who wanted to have other questions.
Yes, I can try to respond to the question asked by our Spanish colleague on mines and power plants. In our region, it's quite simple. We've got huge quarries, huge open pit mines, and huge power plants right next to each other, and they basically are used to produce energy from coal. So it would be very difficult for them to continue to produce that amount of coal. They'd have to import the coal instead by sea. I just don't think it would be affordable. The transport costs would be so huge that the company would never do it, because right now the road by train from the open pit mine to the coal-fired power station is only a few kilometers. Now we do have heat that's produced as a result of that, as a byproduct of the energy production, but it's not a huge amount. It's not comparable, for example, to the amount that we see in locations in eastern Germany. As far as financing for the transformation is concerned, I don't really have the actual figures with me, but we're planning to hold a roundtable discussion, coming up with a master plan, trying to find support funds, and both from German regions and from the German national government and from EU funding as well, so that we can avoid the loss of industrial jobs.
Master planning. Yeah. So I have two questions. There is two there, one there, and another one over there. So please, go. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. My name is Darek Urbaniak. I'm from the WWF European Policy Office. And obviously the issue of just transition is raising very quickly on the political agenda, not only locally but also here in Brussels, as we are aware of. Also, we as environmental NGOs, or maybe I speak on our behalf, WWF, are very much supportive of this process, and not only because of coal phase out. So from this point of view, we have been advocating and supporting a creation of just transition fund at the European level. So my question to the presenter is, what is your view of the role of the EU and what kind of specific policies you will outline or suggest for us all to work on to push the EU to actually commit some funding for the regions affected by the transition. Thank you.
That's a very clear and straight question. Please, you want, yeah.
My name is Kuba Goleski. I come from Polish organization representing communities and local authorities defending against new coal mines. Having said, I spent here 2 years in Brussels, so I'm not completely alien to this word too. Having said this, I would like to focus a little bit on what just transition can mean. I think you can only talk about just transition when the transition is such accepted. And for this purpose, I think we have quite different understanding, at least on the central level, whether this transition is needed or whether it's resisted. As we see around the Central Eastern Europe and those countries that have lignite, especially, and were heavily dependent on centralized energy production, they are trying to use just transition as a slogan in discourse to postpone and slow down transformation as such. So I would just want to bring the discussion because anything that can be good can be also used against you, and I think there needs to be a lot of thinking, not only about financing, because financing is one, but also about time. We have not that much time for a transition to be just in Europe and outside of Europe, and this is one question. And in those countries that I'm talking about, meaning Central Eastern Europe, Poland, Hungary, Romania, Bulgaria, Federal South, there are plans to open new things. And a lot of times trade unions, municipalities, central government is using the need of workforces, and this is what we are talking about here, basically maintaining jobs, in order to continue or even open things that we know are not fitting within the frame of a transition. And I wanted also to raise another topic from this point. In order for things to be just, we have to have transparent information about the cost related to it. And so far, even in Germany, even in Poland, the notion about what are the water impacts are incredibly hard to dig out. And I'm sure that half of the people in this room probably don't know what amount of water pollution, water impacts on communities, not only the community that will be first in the transformation, but around are. So I think that just transition for one community can mean a very, very unjust transition or a very, very unjust state of being for the community surrounding it. And I wanted to place it on the table because we have those fights all the time between regions, between a group of comrades on one side and on the other side, because simply when we talk about coal, there is no nice, just transition. And yeah, I wanted to drop this point as ironical, but to think for whom and for what the just.
Yeah, thank you. I think still our speakers have quite already answered some of your concerns, especially saying that they are not against phasing out, but they are just facing a reality. So facing a reality is fair enough, I would say. Please.
Sí, buenos días. Mi pregunta.
Good morning. For Peter Singer, I'm José Luis Biares. I'm in charge of mining in Comisiones Obreras. And I just wanted to say to our comrade that we have a particular situation in Spain, which I'll explain. I don't know whether you're aware that in 2008 the German unions reached an agreement with their own government for the closure of mines, and with that agreement in Germany, the European regulations on concession of aid to mines has the same deadline as the German agreement. Because of the German agreement, I'm talking about the decision of the 31st of December 2010. And then in Spain, that decision, it doesn't say literally that mines have to be closed down within that time period, but it says that if they don't close down, if they're competitive, if certain companies are competitive, they have to, and they don't close down, they have to pay back all the aid that they received since 2011. So that's a very particular situation. This is what I want to put to you. Recently, in 2012, 2013, Germany built 3 power stations consuming lignite with 1,300 megawatts potential, with a lower level of emissions. But according to data that I get from from the German unions and my comrades there, Germany is going to be producing 180 million tons of coal with 15,000 employees. Now, there are other countries, there's Romania, Bulgaria that I'm familiar with. I'm wondering, well, Poland has a much higher level of unemployment, but I'm thinking about coal production. We're talking about a just transition, but that just transition is only going to be for the few. It's the only country included in that is going to be Germany. And they have the luxury of being able to export to other European countries. So I don't know whether you're aware of what's actually happening.
Between territories is definitely at European level, and obviously what you are telling us is not a good example of that solidarity that we could have. I had another question, yeah, two other questions there.
Sorry, my name is Inga Johansen. I come from the Red Green Alliance in Denmark. And thank you for all your very interesting input from municipalities all over Europe. I think it's very important for us to know about your difficulties, because there are very obvious difficulties in this transition. And it's very obvious I think, to all of us and to you that this is too slow. That we are going to reach a 2% degrees rise in temperatures long before the turn of the century if we continue in this way. So we have to realize this, and we have to look at the problems and how we can maybe speed up the process. And of course we have to know what is preventing us from speeding up. And I think that there is a lack of discussion on these big, huge economic interests that are in coal, fossil fuels, and what do we do and how can we learn from each other from a municipal level to a governmental level. And very often the governments and the EU are cooperating, protecting these huge interests. So what can we do? And I think we can do something. And so I think it's this is a question to all of you, how you address this. How do you address also the economic policies of the EU, which are actually reducing the abilities of local municipalities to spend more money? In what way are you preventing privatization, for example? There's also a huge pressure on privatization. I can say in Denmark there's a pressure to privatize water at the moment. So this is not. So I think this is a struggle that is going on at the moment, and we can learn from each other. And I would like to hear what you're saying about this, because this is to the core, I think, of the problem of the slowness of the transition. And I really hope it will be a just transition, but still we are talking about transition. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So the good news is that we have the whole day to answer your question, because the bad news is that we will have no time at all to discuss it in that session. I have two other people that wanted to take the floor. If it's possible for 30 seconds, then I leave it to you to be really concise, so that we have after only also 30 seconds for each of our panelists to answer, and then we can close the session if it's fair or if it's just for everybody as a transition to the coffee break. Please, you had one, you wanted to take the floor.
Well, yes, I'll try to just take 30 seconds to report on the situation in a country which is not only about the transition, but in general the energy issue. There are three particular aspects. I'm from Greeceland, and I think that there are some very important points that we need to bring into this discussion. Energy poverty, privatization of the energy sector, and great dependence. In Greece, where I come from, we have cheap national source of energy, which is lignite. At the moment, we're only producing 12% of our energy needs from lignite. Syriza believes that we should phase this out. But how can we do that? How can we do that in a context of great poverty, great dependence, and the rigorous austerity policy in Greece? With the 30 seconds that I've been allocated, I'd like to throw those issues into the discussion. Maybe we can address them in greater
time after. You wanted also to take.
I will push it for the next one.
Thank you very much. Maybe one nice last word, and I can maybe start with you, Sofia, because you had not the floor after. If you want to tell her very short word.
It's difficult to respond so quickly to such an important question. Clearly, the whole challenge is to come up with a solution. We've been talking about lots of different solutions. We've got more than one municipality involved, but our main challenge is that the national government hasn't taken a major policy decision. Until it does, it's going to be difficult for us to achieve a solution at local level. That's our main problem in Spain. We've got lots and lots of directives coming our way year after year, but basically there's a lack of a central government policy. The transition is underway. It's very slow, also because of the fragmentation amongst various regions. But clearly, if there is not one central main policy message from the national government, so that we know what we want to achieve, we're not going to achieve anything. That's our main problem in Spain. Also, the budget items that we've talked about is just for businesses to be able to do their business more properly in better conditions, so that they don't have liquidity problems in the future if they can establish themselves. I don't have time to go into detail on that, but we are working on that as a local level. We've got credits, microcredits, in fact, which we are making available to start-up businesses. So those are budget items which have been included in the local government budget, and we're trying to do that at other levels as well, in other municipalities. Why don't we work together with other local administrations so that we can pool our resources to get these sorts of microcredits available? And that's the sort of thing which I think we can and should do. So why don't we table that sort of suggestion? Cross-administration cooperation in order to make microcredit available. As I say, the main problem for businesses is one of liquidity.
Well, yes, this cooperation between municipalities is something we've done in our region by getting the municipalities to join together in an association. What we need now is to bring all those players together, to get those that are in favour of mining, those that are against mining, and those that are in between. And this is a process which is going to be our main task for the next couple of years. The question being asked is who's in charge? Is it the municipalities? Is it the regional governments? Is it national governments or the EU? At the moment, everyone has some responsibility to bear.
Ja, ist ja eine Frage direkt an mich gestellt worden.
Well, I think there was a question that was asked, that was put just to me. There might be misunderstanding. In 2018, it's coal mining, but not lignite mining, that's going to end. They're two completely different processes. Officially, lignite is not going to be subsidized anymore. We could go into details of that for a long time, but officially, we're seeing a shift from lignite towards normal coal. So I talked about the move away from lignite in our region. we don't really have an official policy so far. There's just a local policy directive or circular that has been issued that said that we should see an end to production by 2035, but it's not really a coordinated policy. And I say that's lignite, and it's not something that we can replace by imports from abroad either. Usually, first of all, there's lots of transport costs, but also it's not economically viable to use lignite instead of normal coal. I don't know what the situation is in Spain, but I assume you're talking about normal coal, not lignite.
Now you have your coffee break waiting for you. I would like to thank all the speakers. To tell you also that there is one good practice that comes to my mind. It's in Limburg, in the south of Netherlands, where it was a coal region, and they are decided to be by 2040 completely carbon neutral, and they will do it because they have done a project with miners that have helped a completely new design of geothermal energy that they will put into the mine. The mine is now empty for years, but they will put water into the mine, and they are using all the expertise of the miners that were in the regions. So there is a lot when you have a story, when you have expertise in your working force that you can use for doing a transition, because in some places they do. So thank you very much, and have a good coffee break.
Can you say when we start?
We start in 15 minutes. So no, we start at 12 in 5 minutes. Good luck. 10 minutes. So you have 10 minutes, and then the speakers should come already. The next speakers, if they can already come. Thank you.